Okay, so who is running this auction? It's a private company called the World Climate Initiative Incorporated. Now, who owns World Climate Initiative? CARB. Can anybody tell me how a public agency incorporates, owns, maintains, and runs a private company?
Out of Delaware, isn't it?
It is out of Delaware. They actually have an office right down here in Sacramento. I've called about 20 times now trying to get somebody to answer the phone or call me back, and they won't do it. But if there is anybody out there that can explain to me how a public agency can do that, I would love to know, because I'm baffled. Either. It works for me either way at this point. So we know that they've generated, by their own numbers, $1.5 billion on these carbon credits. Okay, it's a public agency that owns a private company, has generated $1.5 billion. We know 25% of that is being funneled back to California for the high-speed rail. 25% of that is going to environmental justice, which means they're funding environmental companies to sue and settle everywhere that they go so that they can generate more funds. And 50% of this money's missing. We can't account for it. We can't find any record of it. We don't know anything that's going on with it.
Check the pockets of your politicians.
Well, how many people know who Mary Nichols is? Okay, Mary Nichols is the head of the California Air Resource Board. She is also the treasurer of this private company.
Sorry.
Also on the board of directors is a gal named Toni Atkinson, who is the majority leader of the House Assembly in Delaware. Okay? Her wife is one April Lashir, who was one of the Bank of America people who got tagged for the mortgage fraud bundling. That's who's running this private company that's sucking us dry. Okay? So now we get into all these little tendrils of what's going on with this environmental movement that is sucking us dry, and we start looking at things like mitigation banks. How many people know what a mitigation bank is? Okay, say you want to build a parking lot in Shasta County. Okay? Anything. You want to build an outhouse in Shasta County. Okay, the building department's going to show up, and they're going to show up and they're going to do an environmental impact study. Oh, guess what? Where your outhouse is going just happens to be a hole in the ground where we think Vail fairy shrimp used to breed. You have to mitigate that. Now, how many people know how you mitigate the environmental impact of your outhouse? Okay, that's right. You go and buy a mitigation credit, which is similar to a carbon credit. Okay, so you actually have to pay somebody that already has this land, that is already doing nothing with this land, to continue to do nothing with this land and give them money to mitigate your impact. Even though when you started you had your hole that your outhouse is going on, and he had his land over here, and you're still losing this hole and you still have this land no matter what, you still have to pay this guy to mitigate it. Now, who knows the one place in Shasta, Tehama County in the North State area where you can mitigate that environmental impact? Not McConnell. Glenn Hawes, former Board of Supervisor Glenn Hawes. Okay, now we've been tracking the money on this, and I've got the money up through 2008, and then all of a sudden it just stops. There's been sales, I've found records of sales, but I can't find an amount after that, and I'm after Fish and Game because, yet again, Fish and Game, a public agency, is the oversight holder of this private corporation that's owned by Glenn Hawes, was set up by Fish and Game. Now, under their own laws, they have to disclose quarterly, 4 times a year, the amount of money that that bank has taken in, where it's gone, what it's doing. So we're finding tiny extensions of this, and we're trying to make the connections, and then we find out that this mitigation bank, and they are all over California, is tied in with specific partners in species banking. Okay? Now, species banking have partners like the United Nations Development Program. That's Glenn Hawes. And the Stillwater Plains Mitigation Bank. That's the United Nations sitting right out there. People like the Wildlands Fund, they're in on it. Michael Bloomberg out of New York, they're one of the direct associates of the Stillwater Mitigation Bank. Okay, these are the things that are going on. So now we're starting to see the tie of all these tendrils of this mass green movement that's going on. And what's really going on is because you have these different layers of people. You have your average kind of low information citizen that hears talking points like, oh, save the planet, clean air, clean water. You know, you're saving this for your children. When Cap and Trade came out, I actually watched one news bit. And the gal at the gas pump sitting there pumping gas, and the reporter says, well, you know that this is making your gas go up. And she goes, well, I'm really saving the planet for my kids, so charging me a couple extra cents at the gas pump really isn't that big a deal. And you have that group of people that think that way. At the next tier, you have your government workers, which are pretty much what's left of the middle class in America, and they're there 9 to 5. They keep their head down. They do what they're told. They collect their check. They go home. They hope their retirement's there. Little do they know that CalPERS and CalSTRS is now being taken over by the United Nations to fund the green movement. So you have that class of people. Then you have people that exist a little bit closer to home that have figured out the scam of the green movement and how to make money off of it. These guys know this science BS. They know what's going on is wrong, but they're making money over it, hand over fist. Say, use this as an example, is you have a buddy that you grew up with and we're in politics with in the same county and used to sit on the board of supervisors, and your buddy now has a mitigation bank that collects all of this money, that then funnels it to a nonprofit, that then funnels it into your campaign contributions. And when somebody doesn't pay their mitigation fees or stands up, you as a board of supervisors sick the county planning department on them to make sure that they pay their fee to your buddy that owns the mitigation bank so he can funnel that money back into your campaign coffers.
Now my question is, how do we bring those people to the table? And do we not say anything? What Red just said just now, do you guys all believe that was fairly civil? Is that pretty civil? Considering the information? And since it was civil, do you think that if somebody that has a dog in the hunt, do you think that they would be amiable to Red or amiable to this information? You see, we have to grow up a little bit and understand this is real. And understand that there are people out there, yes, there's a lot of people out there that are uninformed, and a lot of people that Red can educate, and folks like Red that get this information and educate us like they have been. And there is folks out there like that, but there's folks out there that don't care, because what we have found in going to not all the board of supervisors, we found some great boards of supervisors and some great people. Glenn County's they were amazing. But we've also found that they ask one question, and that question is, how does this help me, or how does this hurt me? Not how does this help my constituents, or how does this hurt my constituents? And I think that the information we have here, and I believe this is probably just the tip of the iceberg you're giving us, huh?
Yeah, we're really just going to get into it little bit by little bit and lay it out there so that people have a firm foundation of what's going on, and how not only the global model of what's going on, but how that has trickled down tyranny even to the form of our local government. Because ask yourself a question: if you're a sitting board of supervisor member in Shasta County and huge amounts of your campaign funds are coming from a place that makes its money off of California's environmental regulations, why would you ever even want to listen to a movement that wants to change the dynamic?
You see that, and the other thing is too, is that, you know, we have some things now, some tools we didn't have in 2009, and you know, we have some tools. One of those things is the Shasta Lantern. We gave out, what, 1,500 at the gun show. You know, it's an excellent paper. In fact, it's thicker than the Record Searchlight. The Record Searchlight on Monday now is like a good cigar, but you know, wrapped in plastic. But, you know, when you look at that, we have Sovereign. How many of you folks listen to Sovereign Minds? I mean, if you're not listening to Sovereign Minds, I'm telling you. I mean, you know, Mark and Linda they have done a great job, or should I say Linda and Mark? No, they've been great. You were great with George Runner. But they have great programming. What the thing is that what I like about that program is they bring things here to me. I mean, I can't do anything about the wolf. I can't do anything about a lot of things that are going on. There's so many. I can't do anything about a myriad of issues that get thrown at us. But the one thing I like about Sovereign Minds is that it's bringing to light and bringing all this good information about things that affect us, and gives us something and a way to do something about these things. And that's really getting the word out. And I thank Mark and Linda for being so honest. Like Mark said before, there comes a time. He's talked to me before. I'm going to tell on you. He said, you know, I think maybe I just need to tone it down a little. No. As long as you're respectful and you know where that goes. But I mean, if a guy lies, he lies. I'm tired of talking about them being and saying the untruth. I mean, you know, it truly is what it is. Now,
Can I?
Yes.
And maybe somebody else can help me with my understanding here, is when one of our elected officials does something bad, we don't want to say anything about it or be too loud about it because we're worried that may cause them to do something bad. I mean, is that the logic behind it? Because that doesn't compute with me, is we can't call them for what they are because they might continue to act like what they are.
Yes, Shay.
I have kind of an example that would probably help people understand what is going on. In the shop, we have a lead compliance. Back in the 90s, a lot of the vehicles, all the orange trucks were painted with a lead-based paint or primer, and that becomes a problem when you go to grind into it, weld and all that kind of stuff on it. So part of that compliance that we have to do is you can't have any open containers or anything like that in the shop because those little particles might get into it and contaminate it. But about 25 feet from my toolbox, there's a drinking fountain that doesn't have any cap on it. And you can go right over there and get something to drink. So the guys in the shop and I have gotten hassled over having a soda or a water or something in the shop. And you can't go to our supervisor and tell him, look, you dipshit, you have a drinking fountain right there, and you are yelling on us for having a water. Because not only will he say, well, it's the policy of not having that stuff in there, but then he'll turn around and take the drinking fountain out, and we'll be left with nothing.
Turn it out into ocean.
And
That's the thing that we're going to do.
so, and I wanted to get back to one thing before we get too far down the rabbit trail. As I said, there's 4 types of people. Now, we just discussed the 3rd type of people that know what's going on, but they don't care because they're making hand over fist. And then there's the 4th kind of person. And there is no negotiating, there is no cooperating, there is no sitting down and making these people see reason. They are the true believers. They are the people that believe that the world population should exist at 500 million people, 500 million. That we should live in teepees. That we are destroying the planet, and for our own good, they must get rid of all of us. There are people like that out there. Mary Nichols of CARB is one of them. She is one of the head druids of the dirt-worshipping earth muffins. And these people are the enemy, and they are absolutely willing to crush us, drive us out, and kill us because they believe they are saving the planet. And there is no negotiation with those people.
You're the first.
And that's pretty much it for now.
Thank you, Red Smith. Anyway, yeah, we're going to have a breakout tonight on